Hello, everyone. This is Irene with SaugaTalks. Today, again, I am talking weekly with fascinating people in tech. And I talk about fascinating topics and I talk about fascinating applications of technology in our everyday lives, in our work, in our entertainment and leisure time. So we're basically in a very cool age of Industry 4.0, where every day we learn something new and exciting. And today, here with me is Ken Herron. He is the Chief Marketing Officer for UIB, the company where he heads the teams, where he helps humans interact and communicate with machines better, and sometimes maybe machines replying back to humans and other machines. Welcome, Ken. How are you today?
Thank you. Thrilled to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. The topic today, we will be talking about amazing conversational AI technology. I did talk to many interesting people so far, and AI is everywhere. It's in every gadget. It's in every application we're using, either we're realizing it or not. So conversational AI, it's a big area, and developments there are so exciting to date. Ken, I would like you to spell out for many people. We know chatbot, we know virtual assistants. Please spell for us simply conversational AI. What are we talking about here?
Think of conversational AI as the technology that powers chatbots and virtual assistants and conversational solutions. It was not that long ago when we wanted to talk to a machine, talk to a device, we as the humans had to learn the machine's language. Conversational AI flips that completely, that now the machines have gotten smart enough is that they can understand human languages. So whether I am speaking or texting, I'm actually messaging a connected device, it can now understand that through natural language processing. It can understand that through the AI and know what it is I'm saying. It can also then communicate back with me in the form of alerts, notifications, so that I can converse with a machine, my washing machine, my refrigerator, my lights, my locks, just as we are talking, that it can understand what I'm saying. And if it doesn't, it can ask questions to clarify and then act upon the information I'm giving it as the authorized user.
Absolutely. But most exciting in the whole thing that it understands context now, right?
Yes, it can understand context and it can even understand sentiment, depending on the natural language engine that you're using. It can understand if you're happy, sad, frustrated, which is, of course, wonderful for customer service applications, that you can know right off the bat if someone is starting to get irritated or starting to get frustrated and move them either over to a live agent or give them a little special attention.
Fantastic. You know what, from technology standpoint, I read all these predictions for 2021, and conversational AI is the left and right in all the AI predictions and all the IoT predictions. Can you again clarify for us, what are we talking about?
Yeah, and really artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things, they are becoming really joined at the hip. You can almost think of them as two sides of the same coin, that any connected device, what we call a smart or an IoT device, is now using artificial intelligence specifically to enable people to control it and for it to talk back to them, whether it's in an industrial business application, whether it's in a smart home type of environment, or it is in the form of a chatbot where I'm asking for information and then I'm getting the information back. Sometimes with documents and videos. You may have also heard the term robotic process automation. We use that internally. We use our own technology. That I'm a marketing guy. We create a lot of presentations and content, a lot of demos, a lot of things. Well, our salespeople around the world, if it's 3 a.m. my time and someone says, Ken, I need the slides on X, I have a customer meeting in an hour. If I'm sound asleep, I'm not very useful. So we use our own technology that they will go through WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, it doesn't matter the platform, we're omni-channel, that they can go into one of dozens and dozens of messaging apps and ask for the information they need, and it will be presented. presented in a link, presented as a file, and can even include instructions on how to use it. Okay, when you're using this presentation, be sure to mention this or say this, and it makes it much easier for us to collaborate remotely, which unfortunately, because of COVID, we are all getting a little bit better at doing, whether we were doing that before or not.
This is a fantastic use case, okay? We already jumped from the big promise, right, and the complex stack behind, right, to very useful kind of 3 o'clock in the morning phone call where your colleague needs help immediately. All right, and this is fantastic that you employing your own solution to help your own employees. We're gonna get to that because future of work will be transformed, right? And right now, I would say,
Yes.
yeah, it's not what I'm saying. It's about, yeah, it's about you today. So where
it's already here in many cases, and it's funny. Often companies will think of this technology, oh, this is for customer facing. And yes, it works very well for customer service and for sales, lead generation. But some of the simplest use cases, the simplest way of using it, something as simple as holiday scheduling or vacation scheduling, that can be time consuming. There are levels of approval that need to be done. Well, if you can now put in a conversational assistant and you can say, Irene, I want, next Monday off, and maybe that needs to be approved by a manager, a supervisor, someone in HR needs to say, yes, okay, it's been entered in the system. All of those multiple step processes can be automated. And it starts off with the person conversationally saying, hey, I want next Monday off. And very quickly they get back, okay, it's been approved, it's in your file. And all of these different third-party systems that a company may use, the technology can integrate with those seamlessly.
This is fantastic. You mentioned robotic process automation. I come from business process improvement background, so I am familiar with the entire area, but RPA now with AI, with the virtual assistant, let's talk a little bit about future of work, those who are automating those tasks, right? Those who are looking to optimize business processes in organizations. All right. Can we talk a little bit where?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you about the sales process. I'm in marketing, so we do a lot of quotes. We do a lot of proposals. It used to be that when I start to write a quote, I need a quote number. And the quote number depends on the country and all of these different variables. It's not difficult, but we had to, the person who was in charge of assigning quote numbers and kept the great logbook, we would have to wait for them. We'd have to go back and forth with all the questions. And it hit us that was kind of silly, that we have the capabilities ourselves. So let's use our own technology. So now, literally, I wrote one earlier today. When I need a quote, I say, create a quote. I can say it, I can text it. It's that straightforward. And it will come back to me and say, okay, Ken, what's the country? And I'll give the country name and it'll say, what's the customer name? So I will go back and forth through very simple, very stress-free questions that might be a nuisance or take me a few minutes to write out, but because it's done through voice, it's very simple. And then I get, at the end of this, 60-second process, I get a quote number. The real magic, however, is not just me as a salesperson getting a quote number in real time that is approved and official, but because of an integration with Google Sheets, all of this is tracked. All of this is put into our CRM. So all of these follow-on systems that we use as a business and other companies use as a business, you can now have this integrated into all those different systems. So in something as simple as assigning a quote number, you have taken out a significant amount of work out of the process.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we just jumped to the back office, kind of improving operational efficiencies, right? And achieving better results, just simply taking of this repetitive work, right? From people's hand, which is amazing. So to me, this is less errors. This is less human manual problems.
And it frees people up to do other things. It's fair to say, no matter how big your company, you have a finite amount of resources. You only have so much time. So if people can do less grunt work or work where there's really not a need, they're not adding any real value, and that can be shifted to the conversational AI to what we call the unification engine, that benefits the company from both a real dollar and cents perspective, and also you're able to do some pretty impressive things to meet a customer's need, because if you're a salesperson, we all know sometimes responsiveness is key. So the ability to take even 15 minutes out of a process, it is a better use of your time as the salesperson.
Fantastic, fantastic. So where there's back office, there is always front customer facing activities, right? And that's what the most common example, right? We all know.
That's one we're very familiar with. The idea where there's frequently asked questions, that you're a business, you have a certain size and scale, and you're getting the same questions over and over again. For many years, the model has been, well, let's have a call center, let's have smiling, friendly people, whether that's via voice or now through chat, through text, and let's have these live people give our best possible customer service. That thinking has evolved a bit because people are expensive. If we're getting many of the same questions, and think of it as the 80-20 rule, when we look at different types of businesses, roughly 80% of the customer service questions are the same questions. They're predictable. You know what they're going to be over and over. Well, if you can take the absolute best answer, and maybe that's an expert person in a video explaining something, maybe that's a diagram, an illustration, or it's just walking someone through a process step by step, you can now instantly provide the best possible answer to that question every single time. And what that does is the 20% of questions that are unique or one-off or just really complicated, really difficult, those can instantly go to the actual live human to be able to deal with effectively. So it doesn't just benefit the people who are using the chatbot, it also benefits the people who now have a faster lane, an express lane, when they need to talk to a live person.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's kind of example that we're all familiar with. What about a conversational AI in cases where, let's say, customers expect, we know the number, we know this, really scary stats that from 30 I saw to 60% of customers gonna switch to new vendor and new company if your customer service, if your chatbot and conversational AI, right, is not
makes
responsive.
A very big difference.
It makes
one of the biggest impacts, and it sounds silly because it's so simple, but if you have a question and I make you wait just 3 minutes, you're going to be less likely to want to ask a question. So I'm not really giving you the best possible service. And if you have a question, that means you're not getting the full value out of whatever it is. So if I can answer that instantly, if I can make that effortless, you're going to ask more questions. The more questions you ask, the more value you're going to get out of the product. So it starts this virtuous cycle that you're happier because when you have a question, it's not an effort. You don't dread it. And I'll use a personal example. Our cable TV service here locally is horrific. The systems they use, it's exceptional. I wish they would use our own technology. They are so difficult to navigate their systems. I just have a question that I want answered. So the ability to understand what the person is saying and to be able to give them the correct answer every time makes a world of difference for everyone.
So what do you find lately? Because again, the chatbot virtual assistants, we talk a lot about it maybe past 5 years, I would say, right? What's happening now, like this year and 2021, that you see it's changing? Because I'm sure it's an evolving field. Yeah.
A couple different trends. People are realizing that a good chatbot really is a branded chatbot. That it's, think of it this way, if I'm running a business and I have a call center, I train my people. I have a guide, I train them, I teach them. We're using those, in many ways, we're using the exact same manuals, the exact same procedures to train the artificial intelligence. Because think of it, the Ritz-Carlton, very well known for a certain way that they speak to their guests. Their conversational assistant trained the exact same way. All of the language, all of the mannerisms are captured so that when you're speaking to a conversational assistant, to a chatbot from a particular brand, it sounds like the brand. It doesn't sound like a robot. It doesn't sound generic. It speaks to you. It communicates with you in the same way that a live person at that business would. So that's one of the trends we're seeing, this idea of really investing in the personality, not so much the persona, the character, or the, you know, the cartoon image, but it's really investing in the personality so that when someone is talking to your virtual assistant, it is as high quality, sometimes even a little bit more so than talking to a live person from the business.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's actually, yeah, very much in line with all the personalization, high personalization of everything, right? We don't want generic solutions when it comes to to the way we work, the way we eat, the way we drive. So let's talk about self-driving cars here, okay? Because I'm excited about that progress, which is amazing, amazing advancement, right, in automotive industry. So talk to us, conversational AI, right? When we talking to, hey, my car, okay, I'm not gonna name the name here, right? And it talks back to you, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's getting better. One of the joke in AI is that it all starts out pretty dumb, but it's able to learn. So the more you use it, the smarter it can get. So what you're looking for, if you're thinking about purchasing it, is to ask the question of how does the AI get smarter, and how does it allow the business to get smarter? Let me give an example. We've all heard of smart speakers. We've seen the Amazons. We've seen the Google. Well, why did they enter that business? Why did they, in many ways, subsidize the cost of the smart speakers? Because of the conversational data, the actual analytics of understanding what people are asking for. Because if you have a mobile app, it's fixed, it's structured. People can't ask for anything. They're pressing buttons and tapping, and it's limited what you get. When it's conversational, first of all, it's more intimate, it's less formal. People can literally ask for anything. So if you are a dishwasher manufacturer, and it's really important to you to understand what people want and need, well, when people are making these requests, you know who's making it, when they're making it, and what they're asking for. You will also have the ability to communicate back and forth. So given a real life example, German dishwasher manufacturer, famous brand name luxury manufacturer, 30 plus wash cycles, very impressive. Maybe in India, when they are trying to do a more affordable product, trying to do something that is meant to hit a very specific price point for a specific market, what if they could find out exactly which of those 30 plus wash cycles are the most popular? And guess what? Maybe they discover that the wash cycles in the north of India are different than the most popular wash cycles in the south of India. So that ability to understand how people are actually using your product to a very, very fine level of detail, as a product manager, that is nirvana. That is fantastic, because I now have visibility into usage that I just guessed at. Instead of having to rely upon very expensive customer and market research, I can now hear what people are asking my dishwasher to do. So if someone's yelling at my dishwasher complaining, that's very valuable. That's gold in terms of insight. And if someone is asking the dishwasher to do something that it can't yet do, great, because I can quantify that. Maybe it's just a one-off person in France who wants the dishwasher to play music, but if I have thousands of people in different countries saying, I'd really like the dishwasher to be able to play music, you can now quantify that, take that seriously, and think, okay, how this is an unmet product need. How do we go after that?
No, that's fantastic. And, you know, I'm thinking still in the business process kind of mode, because, yeah, those voice commands and voice communications, of course, when they are part of business process, and I'm thinking about banking, insurance, I'm thinking about pretty much every organization out there. You know, it's a huge help. Just the example that you just brought, you know, for those who are analyzing, not just customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction. It could be patient, right? It could be right in healthcare. Just any good examples in industries we all can relate to?
Yes, and actually, you bring up a good idea. Oftentimes, when you're going through a business process, let's see, it's something as simple as I'm looking for insurance.
Hmm.
I want to buy insurance. Well, we can now go to the web and we can go to mobile apps, but what if I could do it conversationally? That now I can not only shop for insurance conversationally, but once I decide to buy, typically there's paperwork and there's signing and there's back and forth. That process can now be done. We think of it as a white glove level service that you can now have the virtual assistant as if this smart friend sitting on your shoulder that will walk you through each step of the process. If you're confused or if you're stuck, maybe it'll show you a video. Maybe it'll, break down the process. So as quickly or as slowly as you want to advance through, you can take a process. We should say, let's streamline all of our processes, but oftentimes we inherit legacy processes that it is what it is for the short term. It can now make those somewhat difficult multi-step processes much simpler, much easier. And instead of having a live person on the phone, let's say worst case scenario, it's a 20-minute process, which nobody likes to think about, but sometimes things do take that long. Maybe it's a home mortgage application and it is a lengthier, more tedious process. The conversational assistant can stay with you throughout that process. If you pause, need to go out, need to take a phone call, it remembers you, remembers where you are, so you can go back at any point and continue the process. To me, that's very exciting because you've been able to make it better for the customer, the user, and you've been able to make it better for the business with some very substantial cost savings.
Exactly. Where do you see the adoption is the biggest? Because it sounds like it's very universal, solutions and platforms now, right? So which industries, I would say, which companies are more, yeah.
I would say, and someone may kick me for saying this, but where there's the biggest cost impact, where
Mm-hmm.
you can save a tremendous amount of money virtually overnight, those tend to be relatively quick decisions, relatively quick
Repetitive, right? Operational.
launches,
Yeah.
where it's scale. Anything that you have, and it can be complicated, but anytime you have the same process or the same questions that are at very high volume, it makes tremendous business value to do this. There's also I hate to say a geographical bias, but there are certain countries that have really aggressive innovation cultures, that they pride themselves on their comfort with new technology and their ability to leverage new technology. Singapore, we
Mm-hmm.
might think of as one that has traditionally, it's kind of part of their DNA, part of their culture, very agile use of new technology, that if something works, they are all in and very quick to implement. Same with a lot of countries in the Middle East, including the UAE, that if you can prove that something works, they are very aggressive to be the first to get that benefit out of it. And we can argue that that's culture, that's history, but there are certain parts of the world that have kind of put in how they think. If we can leverage good technology, that if we can use this, we can advance not just from a company perspective, but as a country perspective.
Oh, totally. You know what? In preparation to our talk, I discovered a lot myself. For instance, when particular industry, insurance, I am giving the example,
Yes.
more conservative industry, right? They don't
Mm-hmm.
jump on every emergent technology, and we just not using AR and VR when we filing the claims or when we looking for
Mm-hmm.
policy, right? But what I'm finding out that what you mentioned, the conversational nature of request makes such
Yes.
a tremendous difference in more conservative, let's say, traditional industries, don't you think?
And it's funny that you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Conversational banking is one of the top items
Mm-hmm.
because we can verify that it's you. Uh, all of the different, because of the virus, many of us don't have physical branches that are open.
Mm-hmm.
It's more difficult for us to go into a bank and talk to a person than it was 12 months ago. So we're finding an increased demand for people to be able to do their banking conversationally, and it works very well. In terms of security, in terms of encryption, it's a very safe and secure way to do it. And they're finding that many customers prefer to do it, both on the consumer banking side as well as on the commercial banking side.
Fantastic. I'm still thinking consumer, because we want to talk to our gadgets over here.
Well, let me give a good example. What if you could go to an ATM and you no longer needed an ATM card? What if, and this technology exists now, that you can verify yourself, that you can get a one-time PIN code, so you no longer need to worry about the ATM, that it can verify it's you, and all of this is done through conversational AI. And if you're a bank and ATM cards cost a certain amount of money, if you can eliminate the need to care for physical cards, you now have a much more attractive ATM because people don't need to remember their card in order to get cash out.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so promise is out there, right, at fingertips. So let me ask you how difficult it is to implement a project that includes this new technology now, because we know it all sounds good and easy. So what's the hurdles? What's the kind of
It varies, being very transparent, it varies based on the size. If you have a project that is hundreds and hundreds of intents, what we call the questions and answers, the actions, it can take several weeks. Often that is about internal processes and what people need to go through. Well, let's give a real life example. You are a company and you run a customer service operation. Okay, we're going to take your most frequently asked questions and we're going to put those into a conversational assistant for you. Okay, maybe that is about 30 days worth of work, but if you don't already have that pulled together, if you as a company need to do some internal research, that can add on to the length of the project. So our amount of time in it is relatively minor. It's really the amount of time the company needs to get their processes sorted and whatever they need to do so that they can hand that off to us and we can get started with implementing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's actually lots of still sales and marketing applications, right? I mean, I don't know, in manufacturing.
Sales, marketing, a lot of reporting. We're seeing a lot of people using this to create an invoice. We're seeing a lot of people, because most larger companies have multiple databases, multiple systems that they use for their finances. We see quite a bit of interest in, tell me this week's reports, this week's numbers. Tell me how that compares to last week's numbers and maybe this time last year. Well, to have a junior clerk pull all of that information from different sources and to put them into pretty arts and charts, that's significant time. That's maybe a couple of hours of work for someone to just answer a quick question. Conversationally, I can do that in real time. So I'm in the board meeting. I'm just asked a question that I don't know the answer to. I can, very quietly, text it and message it. And now I get the answer visualized in the company look, in the company format. And I've got that on the screen in front of the board within seconds because of all the integrations to the different systems and the ability to visualize that data in real time. So that becomes a very impressive tool. And again, not customer facing, not necessarily back office, but as a management tool, I want our numbers, and I want our numbers in the way I want to think, compare this to this to this, show it this way, and that can be done in real time.
Okay, that's a big promise. That's a big promise. What about?
And the technologies exist. It is a promise of something we can deliver because all of those technologies are proven. We've just pulled them together in a way that maybe someone else has not yet.
Oh, that's fantastic. Last week I spoke with Pascal Bornet, who is an intelligent automation leader and expert. And I am thinking that conversational AI falls under intelligent automation, I would say, from technology standpoint.
It's a facilitator. We have a very narrow focus, to be clear. We just do the human to machine communications, but for all of these other disruptive, transformational efforts that are ongoing, they all have an opportunity to be made better with conversational AI.
Absolutely. And correct me here, what about non-verbal communications? I mean, will we see the day when computer not only hear our tone and our sentiment and our voice, but actually recognizing, right, with computer vision, recognizing the face and, you know, just analyzing the gesture, and just this will come as another element of communication. Do you think we're far from
We're
it?
seeing bits of that already. We're seeing different things with gesture. We're seeing different things with the sentiment analysis. The state of the art right now is being able to understand voice and understand text. The gestures are coming, and I see that as only increasing what we already have.
Exactly, because I know BMW, what they do now, you can kind of increase the volume, you know, with the gesture. This is a communication, nonverbal,
Yes, yes.
right? Those things we probably will see more of it, right, around our own appliances or, you know, other machines we communicate with, right?
I see it as not a substitution. Think back a couple of years ago, everyone was saying it's going to be voice, it's going to be voice. You know, we're all going to be using voice and only voice. The reality has not been voice first. The reality has been a little more of a mix, that we're seeing about 60% messaging in terms of actual usage, about 40% voice. And the reason for that is, if someone like you who is talking all day, when you get home at night, maybe you don't want to be talking anymore. Also, if you're by yourself in a quiet space, voice can be phenomenal. For example, inside of a car. But if you are in a noisy environment, if you are in an environment where you don't have privacy, or you simply don't want to disrupt someone, people default to texting. Where we do see voice being most popular, for countries that have languages that are a little more difficult to type out, Arabic, for example, Chinese, for example, because you've probably seen a Chinese keyboard, has a lot more characters on it than the typical US English keyboard. So for languages where it is faster and easier for people to use voice, we see, you know, the percentage is flipped. We see very high usage of that because it's easier for the user to do that. But across all of the languages, it's kind of interesting that we all thought voice would be number one, and in many markets, it is number two. People still have a comfort level with texting, with messaging, because it's a little more private, a little more discreet, a little more comfortable.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we did talk about commercial applications in industries, right? We talked about internal kind of processes, right? Improving employee efficiencies. What do you think about future of work? Meaning that, you know, all the great capabilities with conversational AI, we're gonna be freer, right? People in their jobs, right? Will have.
It really facilitates remote collaboration. So many companies, because of the virus, were kind of forced to figure out how to work together remotely. And the example I gave you, the ability to get a sales quote at 3 in the morning, or to get a sales presentation overnight, that's part of remote collaboration. That I'm no longer, I no longer need to talk with you live to get information. That if there's regular information, you can put that all into the system, and now people can access it at will. And you, as the content creator, if you're the person who creates podcasts or creates content, you now have a very deep level of analytics that can help you make better decisions. Because if someone has asked for something that you don't yet have, you can now quantify that and say, okay, my next show will be on this because, you know, 30 people asked for this or 100 people asked for this. It gives you better insights so that you can make better decisions as the business owner.
Absolutely. And I think incorporated in larger systems, right, where recommendations will be provided, right, to knowledge workers about the next step to take. That's, I guess, right, another huge commercial.
This ability to break down difficult processes, also processes that can be dangerous. This may sound odd, but it's able to work. We have very good integrations with Bosch cameras and others. So let's say you're in a factory environment and there's 3 different machines that you use as part of your work. Well, maybe you were out last week, so you missed the latest training update. So you, as the person, walk towards the machine to do your work. The camera knows it's you and says, not turning on. You need to go through this 3-minute video training to refresh you on the latest safety procedures before you are allowed to safely operate the machine. So the integration with software, with hardware, with the machines, that it can tell if you have your safety vest on. It can tell if you have your goggles on. It knows who you are. So if you've not been trained on that machine, on the latest procedures, you simply can't work it until you go through that training.
Fantastic, fantastic example, and we kind of quickly move to people and people aspect, right? And training and safety and skills. Let me ask you, right, to work with conversational AI technology, okay, what kind of new skills, new professions? I'm asking it with, every guest every week, because that's what, audiences wanted to know. How do I fit in?
The big answer to that is today I work with humans still, but I also work with AI. That AI has become a colleague or a peer, something as simple as a spell checker or a grammar checker, or something that checks my spreadsheets to make sure that the formulas are correct before I use it or send it out. That I am now working in ever closer cooperation with AI to do my job. And you could say, right now, maybe the AI can't do anything that I couldn't do myself, but it can do it faster. Maybe it can do it more accurately. And that frees me up to do the things that only a human can do. A lot of people ask me the question, well, isn't AI going to take away all of our jobs? Isn't it going to? I really don't see that as feasible, because AI does things faster, better than I do, but it doesn't replace me. It's given me a new tool. Just as we now have computers and we don't think about it, we have cell phones, we don't think about it. We learned how to use those new technologies as tools to help us do more, help us, whatever it is we're trying to achieve as a business owner, help us to do that. AI has become that as well. So from a person perspective, to get comfortable with AI, learn how to work together with it, is the best possible form of job security. Because if we're not already, very soon we will all be working with AI. And it's not a question of working for it, it's a question of working with it as a tool.
Augmented, right? Augmented intelligence, where we just become better at things that we naturally not inclined to do better, right? But at the same time,
or things we just don't enjoy doing. All jobs, regardless of function, have grunt work. Well, if this can help to eliminate the grunt work or make it more accurate and faster for us, we all win.
Absolutely, Ken. Thank you so very much. Time is flying. Time is flying this conversation. I'm now so involved, so I will absolutely provide your contact information, because this area is growing in front of our eyes. And next year,
it is.
Yeah, it will
just
be on
exponential growth.
Yeah, exponential growth. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so very much for your time today. And yes, I will point to your contact information to all our audiences, because okay, we're here to connect. We're humans. We want to learn.
Great. And I'm happy to talk with anyone about what they're trying to achieve with it. And that really is the first question. It's not about the technology. It's about what are you trying to achieve for your business? And then how can conversational AI be a part of that as a tool?
Beautiful. Another excellent tool at our intelligent fingertips over here, right? To make us better humans and do our human
incredible capabilities. Every day I am just amazed at what our customers do with the technology. Sometimes it's very simple, very practical things that can still save millions of dollars. And sometimes it's very advanced, very fancy, if you will, very elaborate, but it always comes down to decreasing costs, increasing revenues, and delighting customers. And this is a unique technology, and then it can really genuinely do all three simultaneously.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you again for being a fabulous guest. Thank you for your time.